the Indigenous voice, and a new voice has switched sides to support an Indigenous voice to Parliament. But don't worry, those of you who oppose it, I'm not sure this move is going to sway the argument for anyone. Let me explain. Back in 2017, when a broad consensus of Aboriginal Australians fell in behind a voice, as outlined in the Uluru Statement from the Heart, there were three influential political leaders who immediately opposed it, and they created a scare campaign, styling it as a threat to our democracy, calling it a third chamber of Parliament. They were the then Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, the then Deputy Prime Minister and Nationals leader, Barnaby Joyce, and the former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott. They were all wrong then, and I said so in no uncertain terms. The voice was always proposed as a body outside Parliament, offering only non-binding advice to Parliament from a body representing Indigenous people on issues relating to Indigenous people. Non-binding advice, a long way from having any parliamentary power. Now, not too long afterwards, Barnaby Joyce had the good grace to admit he was wrong. He stressed that this was not actually a third chamber, and he apologised for his overreach. Good on him. But Abbott and Turnbull held firm, which has led to the strange situation in recent months of the arch-conservative opponents of the voice constantly quoting their nemesis, Malcolm Turnbull, in their arguments against the voice. Well, those days are done, because writing in the Guardian Australia, wouldn't you know, Turnbull has flipped. He now says that the voice is not a third chamber, and he supports it, says he'll vote yes. Its influence will be founded in its constitutional status, he writes, and it will be enhanced or diminished by the extent of its perceived political legitimacy, which will in turn depend on how genuinely representative it is seen to be, and especially by Indigenous Australians. Yeah, well said. If the voice pushes nonsense, it doesn't provide sensible advice, grassroots advice, and instead gets into identity politics and radical activism, it'll be easily ignored by government and lose the support of Aboriginal people. Like all representative politics, it might get messy at times, but it will only be useful if it's accountable. And if it's not, it simply won't have the power to mess with our governance in any way. That's not just me saying that. At least two former Chief Justices of the High Court, Murray Gleeson and Robert French, have made this clear in considered opinions. So let me be generous to my old boss, Malcolm Turnbull. Always have to make that declaration. It is nice that he has come to his senses on this. But wow, didn't he blow an opportunity back in 2017? My worry, though, as a supporter of the voice, it'll probably please some of you, is that now that Turnbull is lining up on the pro-voice side, the opponents will be even more stridently opposed to it. They'll continue to quote Tony Abbott, a good man to be sure, but now he's the only one of those three leaders who continues with this erroneous characterisation of the voice as a third chamber.